course. It's really quick, 1.5 hours, and you should be good to go and up and running in just 1 or 2 days. So if you don't know any HTML, you can go and check that out. And if you do know HTML, continue watching along. So first of all, let's get started. What actually is CSS? So if you don't know what it stands for already, it's called Cascading Style Sheet. So from that name, you can pretty much assume that this is used to style websites. So unlike HTML, which is used to create structure and actual website content, this is mainly used to give it that visual flair, to make the websites look good. So CSS is pretty much what makes a website stand out from websites from the early days, from the early 2000s, and things like that. So that's what really makes a website stand out, is the CSS, or the styling. So this pretty much goes hand in hand with HTML, as it's said here. They work almost consistently together, and they're always used all the time together. So let's go ahead and check out some pages that look with CSS and without. So you can see here that this is the page with CSS. So you can change all of the layout options, you can make font changes, text manipulation, all sorts of things, which we're all going to be doing in this course, or learning to do. And then this is the website without without CSS. Looks pretty standard, right? Obviously, this looks just like a normal website that doesn't have any HTML, apart from some font changes. But you can see that the difference that something like this makes. CSS will completely change the way a website looks if it's used correctly. So the next slide is just a little bit of information about CSS. We're going to be going way more in depth into all of these points later. So a CSS file is saved in the .css format. We're going to be doing that in the next few videos. There's some information about selectors and things like that. Like I said, you can just read through this. I'm not going to go through it because we're going to talk about it way more in detail in the next few sections. But for now, this is just a little bit of general information about CSS. Alright, so now that you know what CSS is, why don't we go ahead and get started working with CSS. So in this video, we are going to be creating and linking a CSS style sheet. So we're not actually going to be doing anything with it yet. We're just going to be creating it and linking it so that we can get started and actually learn some of the properties in CSS. Alright, let's get started. So the first thing I want to do is go ahead and create my CSS file. So what I'm going to do is go into my Sublime Text, or my text editor. Now, if you're not using this and you know how to use the other text editor that maybe you're using something else like Visual Studio, go ahead and use that if you know all the shortcuts. But for now, I am going to use Sublime Text. So in Sublime Text, to create a new file, you go Control or Command N, depending on what operating system you're on. Once you're there, you can use Control S to go ahead and save the file. And right now I'm here, and what I want to do is create a new folder, or a new directory in my course content folder. Again, you can set this up however you like, but the way I like doing it is creating a folder for every type of files, so that, for example, when the website gets very big, when you have multiple pages, multiple style sheets, everything stays organized. So I'm going to go ahead and create that directory. Go ahead into my CSS folder here, and I'm going to name this style.css. So .css is the file format used to save CSS documents, and style is just kind of the standard name you use when you're saving CSS documents. So once I go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and save that, now I have my style sheet created. But we don't actually have anything yet, because right now our HTML page is blank and our CSS file is blank. So this is where knowing a little bit of HTML comes in handy. First of all, I'm going to go ahead and create my boilerplate. I just typed in HTML and hit tab. Again, I talk all about this in my other courses talking about HTML. But there we go. We're going to go ahead and do that. I'm just going to say my website here. And once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and link it. So how do we actually do this? Well, what you want to do pretty much is just go into here and into the head portion of your website. You're going to go ahead and create a link tag. So if you just type link and hit tab in Sublime Text, it's going to create the tag for you. So let's go ahead and break this down here. Rel style sheet is pretty much saying that we're linking to a style sheet, but then type says it's a CSS style sheet. So this is just kind of a more specific identifier. And then we have the href. So in the href, this is where we're going to put the URL to our style sheet. So if you don't already know how to write file URLs, pretty much what we're going to do is first up move back a directory, because right now we're inside here and there's no CSS. We want to go back to the top level. So